Hey guys, it's Anna. I hope you're having a good week. Today I wanted to talk about a topic that I have just recently started researching. Um, a topic that I am definitely more interested in now because of how much information is out there that I didn't know about before. Something that I hope that is interesting to you and that I can share with you so that you can learn more. So this topic is all about the shoe industry and how it can be an improvement to the environment and also how it cannot be improving to the environment. And so mainly focusing on what companies are doing a good job at utilizing better resources and better practices, and then also how can consumers help the environment with their buying habits and their practices as well. So I hope you enjoy. So the first part of this podcast is just looking at why I even got inspired in the first place, um, with learning how companies can be environmentally friendly in the shoe industry. So I was scrolling through Instagram, like one does, and I saw an advertisement for these really cute shoes. They were flats, that this company was claiming was environmentally friendly. And I think I had seen them before, but the advertisement persuaded me to check out their website. And so then on the website, I learned more about what products they actually create for their company, and then what materials they use to produce them, and then they actually are helping the environment, so I learned more about that, and then what messages they would like to spread to their target market, and then customers like me or consumers like me in the shoe industry who haven't been their target market yet, and how they can persuade others in the apparel industry, other companies, to improve their practices and become more environmentally friendly as well. So, you may have read in my last blog post that I wrote about brands of shoes that I found that do produce shoes from recycled materials and how they produce them with their more environmentally friendly practices. And that was just a way for me to research. And so in this post, I talked about 4 different brands and how they make and distribute their environmentally friendly shoes. And what I found was interesting is that these brands ranged in styles and target markets and size of the companies, and then availability of the shoes from these companies because they're quite expensive or they're not expensive, and why that is, and their wearability of their products. And so this post that I had written about this week allowed me to kind of have a first experience with understanding a little bit of the how and why these companies are doing what they're doing, and then a reaction to what they're doing, and then learning how the whole industry, the whole shoe company industry, can be improved upon and hopefully how these brands can influence other brands to improve the fashion industry. So, what is currently happening in the environment that would make these brands think, okay, we need to change what's happening, we need to improve the environment, we need to persuade our consumers to feel the same way that we do, and we need to persuade other companies to change their practices. So, according to Rothy's website, the shoe company that inspired me in the beginning of all of this research, was they actually say that every minute 1 million water bottles are sold globally. And unfortunately, 91% of the world's plastic does not get recycled. And then I found from another brand that creates environmentally friendly shoes that the textile industry, which includes apparel and shoes, the textile industry is the world's second largest polluter behind oil and gas. And this is due to most fashion being produced in a fast fashion way. And each year, 25 billion pairs of shoes are manufactured worldwide. Sadly, almost none of these are made sustainably, which is the reason the textile and apparel industry is the second largest polluter. 60 to 70% of the environmental footprint of a pair of shoes is a result of its product's materials. So earlier I mentioned that fast fashion is one of the reasons why the textile industry is the second largest polluter in the world. And if you've never heard of fast fashion, that means that clothing, shoes, accessories are being produced in the fastest, cheapest way possible for companies to gain a quick buck, a big profit for a cheap product. And a lot of times that means that they're using the worst environmentally conscious practice that they can. A lot of times fast fashion companies will use sweatshops, they will use an overabundance of water, they will use no recycled materials. And so all around, it's just not a practice that really cares for the future of our environment or the industry's workers. And so this is an aspect to the fashion industry that really needs to be revived. It needs to be changed, even if that meant using less water but still not environmentally conscious, or changing locations of your factory so that you don't have children working for you, or using more expensive materials so that you're not trying to overproduce because your original products are not sustainable, do not last for your consumers. So it is something that definitely can be improved upon, and here's why and here's how some companies in the shoe industry are doing that. So the first brand that I wanted to talk about again was Rothy's. So Rothy's creates women's and children's shoes. They have flats, sneakers. They have different styles of flats, and their main focus is using recycled materials. So I thought it was really cool that they have a count going on their website that shows exactly how many plastic water bottles they have used to date to create their shoes. So on their website, it says that they have used 41 million plastic water bottles as part of the materials that they use to create their shoes. I think that this is so interesting because it's not something that you would think is possible unless you really understand the science behind it. So at first, what they do is they take a water bottle and they chip it into little flakes. Then with these flakes, they press them into tiny pellets. And then these tiny pellets get turned into spools of thread, which they can then knit into shoes. So not only do they use plastic water bottles as material, but they also use merino wool. So this is a humanely harvested merino wool that they say comes from an Australian farm and is crafted at a sustainable Italian mill. So this kind of relates back to the fast fashion idea where their products or materials aren't being created in a sustainable way or sustainable location. And so Rothy's is saying that yes, our wool is actually coming from a specific location, which is their farm, but then crafted at a specific location that's sustainable, which is their Italian mill. They also use environmentally friendly outsoles on their shoes. So they have two different types of outsoles. One is made with carbon-free rubber, and the other uses Lux vegan leather, which is really awesome. And then lastly, they use recycled foam for their insoles. So what's really cool about their shoes is that they're machine washable. They are very sturdy and they are able to stand up to that because they use very sustainable products. Their insoles are washable because they're made with bio-based castor oil and recycled materials. So I love how they're very transparent about their methods that they use. They say that they are vegan. They say that even the shipping that their boxes of shoes come through is sustainable. They talk about how their environment at the workplace is inclusive and they care for one another. It's very admirable to see that transparently in a shoe company that could just as easily put out a really great product like they're doing, but in a fast fashion way that gets them a quick buck, doesn't allow the brand to have a family-like feel, doesn't allow the brand to improve the environment in any way, doesn't allow the brand to persuade other consumers and companies to be more focused on what they're buying and what that buying habit does for the world. And so I think that that is really admirable for them to be so transparent and for them to really have this mission to change something so destructive that to our world within this fashion industry. So the next brand that I touched on a little bit in my first post that I really wanted to dive in deeper with on this post was Saola shoes. And so they are a brand that I don't think I had ever seen advertisement from, but when I started researching fashion and shoe brands that were sustainable, they came up. So this brand is really cool. They talk about how they have sustainable and recycled shoes. So they actually list their materials as well, just like Rothy's does, where they're also very transparent about what they're using for their practices, for their production, and the entire process, really. So we learned that they also use recycled plastic bottles, which is called a PET plastic, which I talked about as well in my first post. So PET is a polyethylene terephthalate material. And so most of the time it's used in food packaging and plastic water bottles. And so on their website, they wanted us to know that they can use this PET material and give it a second life in their shoes. And so their process actually starts with 4 or 5 plastic bottles. So each pair of shoes that you buy from Saola actually uses 4 or 5 recycled bottles. So I think that's really cool. Their PET material supplier is accredited by the Recycled Global Standard certification, and that actually ensures the traceability of the product line of these materials. They say that that's the way they produce their recycled plastic shoes, and I think that that is admirable as well, because they took all measures to make sure that they were using materials that were certified, and then be able to say, we know exactly where our products are coming from, we know exactly how many products we are using from the environment, that we can say we've done this amount of good, quantifiably show their consumers and other companies exactly how they produce their plastic materials. They have nothing to hide. They aren't trying to get a quick buck either. And so I liked how they set that up, because they say, okay, here's the beginning process. We use plastic, recycled materials for our shoes. And then they go on to say that they use recycled algae foam. So I thought this was really interesting. I had never heard of that before. They use foam, algae foam from the ocean that at first can be harmful, but then they remove the harmful algae from the water, put it through a process that dries the algae out, crushes it, and then convert it into a powder. So this powder is then mixed with EVA, which is a synthetic material. Then it becomes an algae foam. They actually use this for their soles in their shoes. So similar to Rothy's, they also use a recycled material in the soles of their shoes as well, not just the fabric. So what's cool about their transparency and how they tell their consumers exactly what's in their shoes is they can quantifiably say that using algae foam allows their brand to use 15 to 20% less synthetic materials in their shoes. It also allows them to clean lakes of harmful algae and prevent the release of CO2 into the atmosphere. So that is really cool. That is really awesome. They also use recycled EVA for the outsides, the outsoles of their shoes as well. So like Rothy's, they're also using a recycled material for the outsoles of their shoes. They also use organic cotton for their recycled shoelaces. So unlike Rothy's, this brand has shoelaces on some of their shoes. So they asked the question on their website, did you know that cotton cultivation represents only 2.4% of the agricultural area, but that it uses nearly 1/4 of the pesticides sold in the world? So this is why they use organic cotton for their recycled shoes, because pesticides and chemical fertilizers can be replaced by natural compost in this process. And then this allows the cotton to require half as much water as the traditional cotton. So this is what I was saying in the beginning about fast fashion, is textile production uses so much water. They use organic cotton, which allows them to use half as much water. So this allows the cotton to be softer and more flexible and kinder to the planet. They also want to challenge the norms of the fast fashion industry, which I think personally all these companies are doing. But this brand, Sayola, is really trying to ask the tough questions of the fashion industry and are continually looking for better solutions to improve what they're doing. So they are even being transparent in the fact that they want to do even better than they are. That, to me, is admirable, because they are really trying to make an impact, and they aren't just settling for, oh, we did 10 to 25% sustainable, let's just stop there. They are really pushing the process to be as sustainable as they can, because they know that it will make an impact on the future of our environment and the fashion industry. So what can we do as consumers to improve the environment or be more environmentally cautious. So, first of all, the best thing you can do is research. So you can research your favorite companies, see if they are environmentally aware, see what practices they are doing, and if they're not doing any practices to improve the environment, then maybe think about if you still want to continue to be loyal to them. And then if you don't, maybe find another option of a company that is vegan or that donates to wildlife preservation or creates products out of recycled materials. So after you've researched, then maybe you can save up your money and use it in a different way for a company or product that is more environmentally friendly. And then if you feel even more inclined, you could work together with these brands on their own movements that can then be a partnership with you and this new brand that you enjoy to donate or volunteer time to improve the environment. So, Sayola actually has a wildlife preservation fund going. And so they actually are persuading their viewers to make an impact together by being more environmentally aware of wildlife preservation. So there's always a way to become more knowledgeable on the fact, and you could also, after research, decide to change your buying habits if you're able to do so. So you can find companies that are vegan, find companies that donate their proceeds. You can find companies that simply create products out of recycled materials, or all of the above. I'm excited to see what these companies can do in the future. It definitely looks like they are prospering because a lot of big name celebrities are helping them become more influential, helping them spread their message. And I think that that's a really good thing. I think that today we need a better understanding of what comes from the buying habits that we have, what products are actually made of, how that can be improved upon. And I think that these companies are really trying to show you can be better, you can be more transparent, you can be willing to improve yourself and still be able to be focused on improving the environment while being a successful business. So I expect that these companies that are continuing their environmentally friendly processes will become even more successful in the future. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and were able to learn a little bit more about some of the processes that environmentally friendly companies go through, some of the downfalls that the entire fashion industry has and that needs to work on, and some of the ways that you as consumers can better understand what you're buying and how you can help the environmentally friendly movement to create an impact for the future of our world. Until next time.